Hi everybody, I'm Mary Rose Feldman. Welcome back to another class for our free class week. So happy you're here and visiting my YouTube channel. I'm very thankful that we get to tangle together. And today we're going to work on, I think, another Zendala. So I think this week is going to be all round what we call Zendalas in the Zentangle world, but you can do this on any paper you want. Use any supplies you want. There is no judgment. Choose something that just makes you happy. So that's kind of our philosophy, and that's what we're going to go with here. So we're going to have a moment of gratitude and just a little bit of centering very quickly. And then we'll get right into our tile. We don't need to practice this tangle. I think it's easy enough that we can go right to our tile. So go ahead and just sit nice and tall in your seat. This moment of gratitude is the first step of a mindfulness practice as well. Just bringing our senses together. Acknowledge how you're feeling, where you're tense, mind or body. And just for the moment, acknowledge that. Set aside any worries. And take a moment to really fill your lungs on your inhale and then exhale nice and slowly. Our affirmation for today: I inhale calm. I exhale tension. And when you do that exhale, just release that tension. Think of it flowing out of your body. Have a moment of gratitude. Pause the video if you need longer. And come on back when you're ready. Okay, so here's our tile for today. I have an affirmation deck. You're probably seeing that. I pull a card before every class, and this is today's card. So, okay, so I'm going to work on like I said, a round Zendala. This is roughly 4.5. Diameter. It's a hair over. I think it's actually 4 5/8, but conversationally I say 4.5. Size really doesn't matter. If you want to do this in square, rectangle, journal, all of that will work with this particular tile. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab a pencil. And I'm going to grab my pen first to tell you the tangle we're going to do. And this is a tangle called Bloom. And it is by Helen Williams. So it's interesting that we have another tangle from Helen Williams. This was not by design. I pull these tangles, a couple months ahead of time when I'm doing my business planning. And for the free class week, I actually moved tiles around, switching them around for different projects. And it just so happened that all the tangles I chose for this week were by her. So I just find it kind of funny, but that was not by design. Same with the Zendalas, not by design. It just happened, so I'm going with it. Okay, so for Bloom, we're going to start with a pencil. And you're going to come on your space, whatever your space is, and randomly put dots. I am not looking to make them a grid. In fact, the more random, the better. How many? I don't know. I just kind of go until it feels like there's enough dots on it. I'm going to grab an 0.3 micron. That's my favorite tangling tool right now. Whatever pen you want is perfectly fine. So what we are going to do is pick 2 dots, any 2 dots, and we are going to connect them with a center, with a line that's skippy. So when I do this tangle, I like to do skippy lines. And also I didn't mention ahead of time, remember with these projects this week, I'm going at my own pace to keep the video shorter. So make sure you pause and enjoy your tangling if you need more time for steps. Okay, so we're going to connect 2 dots, and then we're going to do a tethered aura, which is connected at each end. Again, I'm going to make it skippy. And we're making these little pod shapes, and I want to keep them fairly skinny. So I'm going to do 1, let's say maybe 2 tethered auras. I will do a third, and that third one I tend to make solid. And by doing that, you can see the pen contrast between the edge and the skippy lines in the center. That contrast helps us later. So I'm going to turn my tile, and I'm going to pick 2 more dots, and we're going to keep doing this all over our tile. So here's the thing, you don't need to connect every dot to every dot. So as I'm making these pods, I'm going to pick and choose which ones I want to connect. So I'm going to choose this one to here, and I think longer pods make things a little bit more interesting. Whoops. And maybe I'll do, so it's going to be rhythmic. Like right here, I could make this all work together, but I'm going to choose this direction because that's a little bit more odd. And there are many tangles out there that have this principle of random dots and then filling in. There may even be one that's very similar to this that's called something different. Happens all the time in the Zentangle world. Patterns are all over the place. Everybody gets inspired. So my philosophy is not to get hung up on the label and what it's called. Okay, so let's, maybe this time I'll go here and just keep filling in the space. One of my favorite tangles is garlic cloves. And it's similar to this, except that I don't start with random dots. But for garlic cloves, I make the pods much wider. For this one, I tend to make the pods, I like them much skinnier. And I don't know if that's a function of the random dots. And you can see that Skippy pen adds sparkle. We call it a sparkle in the Zentangle world when you skip your pen like that. So here, I'm going to choose to connect this long stretch of dots, and I'll show you why. So I chose to go that direction so that when I connect these two dots, I have a little draw behind action. Drawing behind just means when you get to something that's in your way, you lift your pen, draw in the air, and then continue on the other side. So just a little bit more interaction. And then instead of going here, I'm going to choose the odder angle . So don't be afraid to do something that's not as obvious. Or ask what if. One of the best questions in tangling and art in general. What if? Don't be afraid to explore. I'm going to do another one here. then I'm going to take some of the points and run pods off the edge because I want, the way I'm designing this, I want full coverage and off the tile. And if you haven't played with something like this before, where you just start with random dots, it's a really fun exploration. It can get you out of your typical path or repetitiveness. It's a lot of fun exploration that comes from it. No planning. Always different. And for these pods that I'm running off the page, it's really just an intuition. Change up the direction, make it look a little bit interesting. I have a couple places in the center that I think I might add a little bit more, but I'm going to get the edges done first. And then I'm gonna pick these last couple areas. Take your tile, hold it out with perspective. Are there any gaps? I feel like this is just too big of a section right here. So in Helen's original step out, it was not the random dots. She had a definitive grid that she worked through, but I happen to like the random dot version better. And I have this gap here that I think if I fill in, I feel like it's going to be too methodical, so I'm going to leave that gap. I'm going to leave this gap, I'm going to leave that gap. So there's places I could add more lines, but I like the unexpectedness of it for now. Okay, so make sure you pause the video if you're still working on it. I'm going to keep moving. And for my next step, I'm going to do Printemps, which is a Zentangle Headquarters tangle, very common, one of our basic foundations tangles. But I'm going to go ahead and do it in a brown micron. So I'm going to just do I have a brown, this is a number 12 brown micron. I have an 01 and I have an 05. I'm not sure which I'm going to stay with yet. I'm going to start with the 01. And in between, in the background, we are going to come in and put in very large printemps. And these are just going to nestle in the background. Notice how large I'm going. I'm a tiny tangler, so I have to remind myself to do this. Yes, that is brown, but I'm just barely skimming the paper. I want the scale of this to be in the background. Very, very light. I don't really want to make it all about the printemps, but we needed something back there. You don't have to do this. You could just shade back there. Normally with printemps, I would maybe weight some of the lines, but because I'm trying to keep this really super light, I'm not even going to weight it. And it's your choice. If you want to make this a little bit more prominent and weight some of the lines, feel free. But for our timing in this project, I'm just going to do it super lightly. You may also notice me sometimes going clockwise and sometimes going counterclockwise. My natural printemps is counterclockwise, oddly enough. That's my natural. If I'm not thinking, I'm going counterclockwise, always from the center out. You can tangle printemps from the outside to the center. For me, that's very, very awkward. I can demo it, but I don't use it in practice. It's just not natural for me. But I will switch up my direction every now and then. Like this one I went counterclockwise, so this one I'm going to go clockwise. And the reason I will do that sometimes is just to make the printemps look different, so that they don't look cookie cutter. I've said it in other videos. Imperfections of your hand is what makes your art and tangling beautiful. We are not machines. So by changing my direction, it just gets me out of everything looking identical for this type of a design. And I need to open up my tangling. I started tiny tangling in here, so I need to remind myself to tangle large. you could see just in that shot, the before and the after. Putting just that little bit of texture in the background really makes the bloom tangling pop forward. You can put any type of pattern you want back here. You can also tangle this in pencil, which is a really cool effect. When you do that, you just have to make sure that the tile isn't smudged a lot, because if you do graphite, it can smudge or seal it in a certain way. But tangling in the background with pencil is a really nice effect. And if you're curious what that looks like, this is just my regular graphite pencil. You come in here with a sharp point and just do exactly the same thing you would do with a pen. And see the very subtle, you get a very, very subtle look, and it's really, really, really pretty. Okay. So I'm going to move on to shading just to keep the video moving. Pause here and enjoy your tangling. I'm going to start with regular graphite. I'm going to stick with regular graphite throughout the whole thing. And I'm going to lay down graphite in the points of all of the pods. So right in the points where all the tangling comes together, and then I'm just going to blend it out. And I think of this in third. A third of the pod here is shaded, a third of the pod here is shaded, and the center third is bright because we want that contrast. And I'm just going to move through with this graphite. Notice I'm holding my pencil pretty horizontally. I have an overhand grip. I'm not looking for harsh lines. I'm looking to use the side of the graphite to get the most effect of the graphite shading without dark lines. You can certainly take your time on this if you want and shade right in the corner and then come on out and then fade off your graphite, and then you don't need a tortillon at all. I'll be honest, I don't have that patience. Most of the time I don't have that patience. And I usually shade in 2 steps anyway, so this would be my first layer, and then I would come back in with darker later, and that's when I take more care. I slow down a bit more, fade off my pencil, do some of the finessing. But on this first layer, my goal is to just get the graphite on here. I call this my mapping. This is when I map where my darks and my lights are going to be. And I think I had mentioned in one of the earlier videos, but from this week, but if you're watching videos out of order, I'm actually using a paper stump, which is a molded paper. This is solid, it's double-ended. I can shave this down with a razor and create a new point. You can also use a tortillon, which is rolled paper. This one is more flexible. I can smash it. It's got a point that is pushed out from the rolled paper. Both are perfectly fine. Both have uses. I keep both in my basic Zentangle kit. I got them all. Okay, corners of all the pods. And then the next thing I'm going to do with shading is I'm going to lay graphite down on the inside edge of all of the printemps areas. So what I want to do is recess all of those areas. So I'm going to lay graphite down on the inside. I'm going to blend that towards the center of the printemps area with whatever you're using for blending, but I have to maintain a bright area in the center. You need to have the bright along with the dark. And even in these small areas right here, so I'm going to get shading graphite right in that area, but I'm going to not blend this out as much. So I call this tight. You want to have tight shading, meaning you're not going to blend it out as much. So it's right here. I put very little graphite, and I'm going to just brush my tortillon, my paper stump, right along it, but I'm not pulling it out. I just don't have the area. You still want to maintain just that littlest bit of highlight. So the smaller your area, the more controlled you're going to need with your graphite, the tighter you're going to be. In Mary Rose lingo, tight shading means you don't want to pull it out very far. You want to keep it contained. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add graphite to all these inside edges. All right, so I think I got all of that background shading done. That was a lot. I was kind of rushing through because I kept thinking I was done and then there would be more. Okay, so from here, I would call it done. If you have any pods that overlap, like I have here, you can come in and put a little bit of shading where they overlap, just to emphasize that a little bit. Not mandatory. Well, none of this is mandatory, but it just gives you a little bit of an added layer. I don't think I have very many of them. And you also want to make sure that you don't make things too dark. So I like to just evaluate that towards the end. You can certainly, if you want to play with this a little bit more, you can add line weight, you can make things a little darker, you can add some finesse and enhancements. You can come in with your white chalk pencil and add some brightness to the white areas of your pods and make them sparkle a little bit more. You get a little benefit on the white tile, but if you're on a tan tile or a gray or a denim, anything like that, the white chalk could really pop this a lot. Remember to grab your pen and get your chop on the tile, and I'm just going to put it right on top of something and it'll show up, and then sign and date the back. Take a deep breath. Have a moment of gratitude. All right. And I thank you for tangling with me today. I think we have one more class this week. And I've been forgetting to tell you guys, if you like this kind of tangling, this less than an hour, gentle tangling, as I call it, simple supplies, check out my R is to Zen series for the summer. It is a 10-week series. We work through the letters A to Z, so there's 26 classes, and they are all designed to keep your pen moving throughout the summer. Simple tangling, a pen and paper, and it goes with you wherever you go throughout the summer. And at the end of the series, we will bind all of our tiles together into a little journal. So check that out. This is season 3. The first 2 seasons have been tremendously well received, and we start the first live class for this year's R is to Zen towards the end of June. And there's 3 live classes, 1 in June, 1 in July, 1 in August, and then all the rest are pre-recorded and released 2 classes every Monday. Everything is available without expiration dates, so once you register, you will have it for as long as I'm on Teachable. The courses run through Teachable, and it is a series really designed just to enhance your Zentangle practice throughout the summer, because we get really busy and forget to just take care of ourselves and give ourselves that mindfulness breath. So I hope you join me there. I hope you've been enjoying this free class week. We have one more to go, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.